How are you today? It's the Tiki and Tierney Show, 10:02 on the Fan, and we're inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.
BT, I got to tell you, as we wait for Aaron Rodgers' deal to either happen or not happen, very tiny percentage. The only reason I bring it up is because Mike Murphy saying, who is the president over there, saying, I'm sworn to secrecy about this Aaron Rodgers deal.
He's a clown.
Exactly. Whatever the hell that means, it's happening. But as I think about it, as we wait for it, and I think it's going to be in June, we've talked about the reasons why, because of the salary cap hit for the Packers should they trade him pre-June 1. Joe Douglas has done a lot of different things. A lot of moves have been going on, including the one we just talked about, acquiring Mecole Hardman and trading Elijah Moore, the disgruntled wide receiver, even though he played a lot of the snaps last year, to the Cleveland Browns. It made me start thinking about Joe Douglas's sense of urgency in what he's doing. And it made me back up and look at the history, really the recent history of quarterbacks in the NFL. Here's a fact. If you draft a quarterback in the first round as a general manager, it flips an hourglass. All of a sudden, we're now paying attention to how this kid develops. Is he going to be your, use the word loosely, franchise quarterback, or is he going to turn into a bust? And if he turns into that latter, history tells you you're not lasting long in the NFL as a general manager. And I'll give you some examples. RG3, back in 2012. Remember, he got drafted first round. They took Kirk Cousins later in the draft as well. Mike Shanahan was the de facto general manager, as he was also the head coach. He was gone in 2 years. We go Brandon Weeden that same year. Tom Heckert, who was the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, he's gone in 2 years. E.J. Manuel, remember Doug Whaley up there in Buffalo? That was a bad QB draft.
He was the only first-round pick as a quarterback that year.
They reached and took a shot on E.J. Manuel in 2013. Doug Whaley's gone in 4 years. Ray Farmer drafted Johnny Manziel in Cleveland. He's gone in 2 years. There's only been a couple that have survived it, a couple, and they're unique examples. One is Paxton Lynch in 2016. In Denver, because that was John Elway. And the other, and this is the more pertinent one to my argument, is Josh Rosen in Arizona. Remember this in 2018? They draft Josh Rosen. There was a lot of quarterbacks taken in that first round.
And Darnold was one of them.
Yep. Josh Rosen lasted a season and got bounced.
Yep.
As did the head coach. But Steve Keim, the general manager, hung around for 6 years. He just retired a year ago, or he left Arizona a year ago. And the way that he did it was by immediately acknowledging his error and resetting. Fire the coach, move on from the quarterback, and start over. Joe Douglas, in my opinion, has his hourglass ticking, and it's ticking quick because he's failed on Zach Wilson, the draft pick 2 years ago in the first round. And the only way he saves his job, is by getting this Aaron Rodgers deal right. Now, it's obviously bringing in Aaron Rodgers, which we know is going to happen, but it's also making it right so that it's not a diminished Aaron Rodgers who doesn't have the weapons, who becomes a malcontent, who starts bitching about not having this player or that player, or the system's not quite right. It is clear that while not technically on the hot seat, I'm saying he is on the hot seat, but not technically on the hot seat, Joe Douglas is making every move to stop the hourglass from ticking down on his tenure by bringing in Aaron Rodgers, by hiring Nathaniel Hackett, who I happen to like, and I think he's a really good coordinator, by signing Alan Lazard, by trading Elijah Moore and going to get a 2-time Super Bowl champion in Mecole Hardman. He's trying to fix or stop his hourglass from ticking down. And I give him credit for it because it's the only way to survive screwing up drafting a quarterback, as he has done, obviously, with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, all right, so when Joe came here, you can make the case. You run down some other situations. I'm not going to do it now because it's a lot of stuff that I would throw at people. But just living through where they've been, I think it's very, very easy to understand that I think Joe Douglas may have had the absolute toughest job of any GM in a long time here.
To your point, the Jets put him in a gross situation.
Not only were they bereft of culture, they were bereft of talent. There were multiple 4-win seasons before he came, multiple 5-win seasons before he came. The Jets were broken.
Yeah, they let Mike McCagnon draft and then fired him. And said, "All right, Joe, take over."
Yeah, no, yes, yeah. Again, that's an absence of culture. There's no plan. I know what you're saying about how things are accelerated when a general manager takes a quarterback, he doesn't work out. I get that, and I'm not saying that Joe's perfect, but I myself, as a fan of the team, I would give Joe Douglas a 10-year contract and be fine with it. That's how good I think he is.
Look, I think
Joe Douglas turned the roster teak that is, just chronicled with a few of those awful seasons and hadn't even been to the playoffs. By the way, the longest drought in NFL, current NFL, in the NFL right now. He has turned them from that into a contender. Joe Douglas has done that.
I mean,
Woody hasn't done that.
What?
Saleh hasn't done that. Joe Douglas has done that.
I would push
give
back,
an extension.
I would push back and say potential contender. Because they're not a contender winning 7 games and not scoring a touchdown over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks of the season.
I understood, but before that went down, they were a contender, and then the quarterback became, untenable, and they were complete. The guy that he drafted, I get that.
17 games. It doesn't fit. 17 games. 7 of, or whatever, 9 of them, 10 of them.
Yeah.
They felt like, hey, man, this team could be okay. But as the season wore on, it got ugly. And that automatically, just the height and the fall puts pressure on everybody. The head coach, the players, the general manager. And the reality is, if you screw up the quarterback situation on your team, you pay for it. And usually you pay for it with your job. And there are ways to mitigate it, as we just talked about. With Steve Keim in Arizona, he pivoted really quickly, immediately. 1 year, all right, this isn't working. Let's change this thing. And it saved his job for a long time. And they got Kyler Murray, and they did all these other things. Now he's ultimately out because they made the bad decisions after the bad decision followed by a bad decision. The question will be, will this Aaron Rodgers situation for Joe Douglas be following the bad decision of drafting Zach Wilson with a good decision, or is this a bad decision that ultimately cost him his job? I mean, it's real. You can't deny that Joe Douglas has a spotlight on him on what's going to happen to this Jet season going forward.
877-337-6666. But I also submit that spotlight that's shining on him is shining on him because he's done so many good things. There's 3 teams in the history of the league that have, rookie offensive defensive player of the year. I mean, I know it's an interesting point in his tenure. I mean, at some point, the conversation's got to stop being about, what the Jets are about to become.
Yes.
They got to start showing us.
Yes.
I understand that. But I've just got faith in him. And it's a little unfounded because the record has not been anything that satisfied me remotely.
Yeah, 4-13.
But it's bigger than that.
7-10.
I'll give you a good example. I'll give you a good example, right? So to parallel this, and I know that, Patino's resume is, as a coach, is incredible. And Douglas, this is his first job as a big-time executive. I get that. So I'm not really comparing that. But situationally, let's say everybody's saying St. John's going to the Final Four next year. Tap the brakes, man. I mean, they're going to be good. But what if they're, 20-12 and they get bounced in the first round? Will that be met with a little disappointment? Maybe. But not if you really understand what he inherited. And St. John's is not that dissimilar from the New York Jets. They have been down for a long time.
Yes.
And I've got to factor that in. I trust Joe. I believe in Joe. I support Joe. I'm not blind to some of Joe's mistakes. Obviously, I've called him out on the show. But I'm rolling with Joe Douglas. That's my guy.
Well,
I'm rolling with him.
This is now season 5. This is season.
Really 4, though, because the first year
I understand.
He was neutered. It's ridiculous. Oh, come on in, Joe. We're going to let this guy, draft everybody, and then we're going to bring in.
Yeah, figure this
guy
mess
who stinks.
Figure this mess out. So let's give him 4 seasons. This is his 4th year.
Yeah.
And again, the only reason there's an urgency here is because of the quarterback situation. Now, this Aaron Rodgers deal, whenever it happens, it could save everything. It could make the Jets relevant. It could make them a playoff team for the first time in now will be 12 seasons. It could help fix Zach Wilson. It could make Robert Saleh look like the coach of the year. It could resurrect Nathaniel Hackett after his failed stint, even though it was only for a year with a messed up situation with Russell Wilson. It could change everything. Or it could just be epically horrible. And if that's the case,
epically horrible.
Because if Aaron Rodgers is either diminished,
he's
physically
not
available.
What if he gets hurt? Then we just blame him. Let's say he gets hurt in week 3.
But he's 39
Season
years
spirals.
old. It depends on how he gets hurt. Joe? But if he's 39 years old and the 39-year-old quarterback gets hurt and it's terminal and starting Zach Wilson and it's terrible. You kind of should have known that a 39-year quarterback was more important. Somebody's got to be held accountable for it. Now, I don't know what his thought process is on this. I don't know if there's been conversations like this better work type of thing. But you can't deny that there is a huge spotlight on Joe Douglas and what he has been doing. Because it's not just, we're going to get Aaron Rodgers and sit back. They've been doing a whole lot, and you can imagine that there's more that's going to happen.
Well, there is, and that's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. I'm telling you, he's coming here. He's coming to the Jets. You know it.
They have the money. If they have the money, it's hard not to see it.
I will say,
there's not a lot of other interest, it seems like.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's crazy.
I was in the car yesterday, and as soon as I got in, I heard it was mid-segment for Craig and Evan, and they're like, yeah, well, however it was positioned, and I find out, within 2 seconds, more was dealt. And I got to tell you, my immediate reaction was disappointment. I've also said many times on the show that I think that he's going to get traded. Yeah. This does not surprise me that he's dealt.
Yeah.
I think Elijah Moore is going to be good. And I thought Elijah Moore could have been awesome here. Now, you got to go back to Elijah Moore's rookie year, okay, where he played only 11 games. He had almost 600 yards. He had a bunch of touchdowns. Unstable quarterback play. Horrendous coach. Just nothing going right for that team. And he really shined through. Now, I get it. You don't want to be here. He wants to be in the slot. They're putting him on the outside. So from an X's and O's point of view, maybe not the best fit. Emotionally, maybe a little immature. But I think the Browns are going to love him. And I'll tell you what,
especially with Deshaun Watson.
I know. Usually in trades, somebody kind of wins at least right away perceptually. I think both teams work out because and kind of walk away from this a winner. The Browns got a guy who I think is on the precipice of cutting loose and balling. And all of a sudden, the Jets have 3 picks in the top 45, and they've got number 42 and number 43, which is either one, and most probably, ammo to circumvent giving a first-round pick to the Packers. I think that second, I don't know if it's going to be 42 or 43. One of those picks is going to Green Bay. But if that doesn't happen, if he's even more shrewd than that and holds on to 42 and 43, do you take those two? You can conceivably take 2 more guys in the first round. Yeah. He is a great trader.
Oh, definitely.
We saw that
trader,
with
Jamal Adams going back
for 2 first-round picks
a couple of years ago. You talk about winning and losing a trade. He fleeced.
He crushed him for a position that has no value if you can't cover a tight end.
And especially a position a guy who doesn't cover.
No, that's what I'm saying, a tight end.
Forget covering tight end. He doesn't cover at all.
No, I know. He's terrible.
He's basically a linebacker.
Yep.
He's a linebacker.
And he's hurt a lot, too.
And he's hurt all the time. I think he's hurt right now. But I get why Joe Douglas has such reverence with Jet fans. And I get why...
reverence is strong. I would use the word trust. I'm certainly, I don't revere him. He's done nothing with weight. He's not revered. Trust me.
He's brought in
he's trusted.
Talent. Well,
he's trusted.
Potential, because especially if this Aaron Rodgers things work out. But the reality is, if you fail at quarterback and you create a consistent, let's call it what it is, loser because you can't get that situation right, you pay with your job. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. But the spotlight to me is on Joe Douglas and how this all works out. Not that it gets done, because I think obviously it's going to get done. But all these things that he's doing, there's got to be an accountability for it.
Look at this guy. He woke up today and he just chose aggression. He said, I'm coming out. I'm aggressive.
Man, I just think about.
I'm looking to get people fired.
I'm not even that. I'm just looking at the situation with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not trusting it fully. I get it. It's done. Aaron Rodgers said on his podcast, forget his even name.
Whatever.
Exactly. I intend to play, not say I want to play for the Jets. He said, I intend to play for the Jets. And then you get Mike Murphy saying, oh, I'm sworn to secrecy, and the deal hasn't happened. And I know why, intellectually, why it hasn't happened. But there's just it got really quiet. And so I just can't trust it until it actually happens.
All right, let's get to you on this. What is it? Wednesday? Today? Well, today's Thursday. Wait, what is it? Today's Thursday. God, I'm losing track of my days.
That's a bad sign. That is a fine. Yes, that definitely fine.
That's a bad sign. This is coming from the guy
I can't remember.
who remembers less about his career. I remember more about your career. True. All right, let's get to Andrew in Huntington on the fan. What's going on, Andrew? How you doing today, pal?
Hey, fellas, how's it going?
What's up, Andrew?
My first time getting through to you guys.
I love it, man.
Nice.
Awesome.
First time, buddy. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So, listen, I called. I wanted to get your guys' take on the Elijah Moore trade. I know you just, kind of went into it. And listen, I'm a big-time Jet fan. I'm a season ticket holder. And at first, I feel like I'm right there with you. At first, I wasn't really too happy about it. When I first saw the compensation, I kind of wanted to see how it would play out with Rodgers. And, I thought he would really thrive. But then I kind of, I sat back and I thought about last year how, I believe we were on a 3-game winning streak, high off a win in Lambeau, and then Elijah Moore just requested a trade out of nowhere and, kind of deflated the whole situation. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with it. I think that this definitely means that Odell's coming or someone's coming. But yeah, just curious to get your guys' take, and I appreciate you guys taking the call.
If he went for 1,000 and 97 yards this year with 10 touchdowns, it wouldn't stun me.
Yeah.
If he's immature and a bit of a malcontent out there, and is in that 600-700 yard range and a little disappointing again, wouldn't surprise me. I think the full spectrum with Moore is still on the table.
Yeah,
but I think he's got a lot of talent.
And the reality is, Mecole Hardman is a 2-time champion.
Yep.
I think he made the Pro Bowl as rookie season. He was really good.
But he only played in one of the Super Bowls.
Exactly. But
okay.
he's got whatever. He's got two rings, even though he only played in one of them. And I think that at the end of the day, he has upside, but I think we kind of know what it is. I think with Elijah Moore, there's upside. We have no idea what it is. And so you trade some certainty, a veteran who's got Super Bowl experience.
Who, by the way, is only 25. Let's not make him out to be 29 years old. He's 25, Hardman.
Yeah, exactly. For a guy who might have some...
A little more.
Yeah, a little bit more, but maybe some, cohesion issues and some malcontent, like bubbling under the surface. Like, you get rid of the problem before it becomes a problem, despite there being a ton of upside, unknown upside with Elijah Moore.
That's culture.
I get why
that's
they
culture.
did it. And to me, you're right. That's why they did it. It's for culture purposes, and maybe culture purposes only. It's not even about the production. It's about, we got to have the right people in this locker room, and you just don't fit right now.
Yeah, and the other thing that Hardman does is he's going to return kicks, going to return punts. He's got 4.33 speed. Berrios is gone, and Berrios wasn't very impressive at anything a year ago. The year before, he was last year, very disappointing. So, it's about the maximization of talent, and Moore was a wide receiver and is a wide receiver. Hardman's bringing a little different stuff to the table. So, I just suddenly I see a wide receiver room with Garrett Wilson, Lazard, Hardman. I believe OBJ's coming. I believe that they could use I'm not convinced they go offensive line of 13 like some people. Now, if Beckham comes, probably, but I can see them doing a multitude of things. Like if they decide to pass on Beckham, 'cause I don't think it will be the other way around, then I could see them maybe going receiver 13. But there's still a lot of things to determine. But I think anytime a player that flashes and then he's dealt, it's a little confusing. And for a guy that hasn't won yet, maybe I'm giving a little too much credence to the upside of Joe Douglas. But I trust in him. I fully believe in him. I think he'll be here for a long time. I think he's about to take this Jets franchise to heights we've never seen. But he's got to do it. Otherwise, it's just hollow words. I got you. 877, and the pressure's definitely on. There's no doubt about that. 877-337-6666.